Do we have to like, so you can put our names, little whatever, little flare, like boom, you can turn around and go, I'm Ron, I'm Tom.
The first thing that comes into my mind is a generation of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And breaking the norms as if no generation before us had ever done that.
Hi, I'm Gail and I'm a baby boomer.
I'm Chris and I'm also a baby boomer.
And I'm John and I'm an old boomer.
What did you all do for fun during your childhood years?
A lot of Xbox, a lot of...
Yeah, I don't know if I want to divulge that or not.
Okay, I'll go first.
So I had a completely righteous pair of hot pants.
I'll dig mine out too.
And I rocked these hot pants. And I don't mind saying that if I had a daughter today, there is no way she would be allowed to wear something like this out in public.
We kidded about being home by streetlights, but I was out all day. You know, if I wasn't in school, I woke up, did what I had to do, eat breakfast. Mom, I'll see you at lunch.
I started working in restaurants on Nevada Avenue when I was between 10 and 11 years old because I wanted a bicycle. And from there on, I had very little time to, quote, play.
Right.
But the technology that I've seen over the years since we were kids compared to what there is now, and you know, cell phones, computers, had none of that stuff when we were younger. It was, you had the TV, it went off at a certain time, so you stayed outside and played.
Well, the day that John F. Kennedy was shot I was in high school, and the announcement came over that he had been shot, not that he had died yet, that he had been shot, and it just, I'd never seen a silence. Believe it or not, when I was at Wasson High School at that time, there was over 3,500 kids going to that school. And I think you could have dropped the pin and heard it in any classroom.
I was born in September of '63, and so I of course don't remember the Kennedy assassination. I do have a memory of Martin Luther King Jr. being assassinated. I definitely have a memory of his dad being assassinated, you know, which was terrible. I think there's a lot of good impacts back then. Bobby Kennedy, we did live in California at the time, and that hit a you know, I remember my parents being upset. I remember a lot of the neighbors being upset. I remember a lot of the country going, oh no, not again, because that was 3 people in 5 years, if you think about it.
I often think about how the world would be today if Kennedy and Martin Luther King and Robert Kennedy would be alive.
Be alive, yeah.
Yeah. What kind of world would we have today? Just those 3 incidences and those 3 seconds in life that their lives were taken. What would our life be today? Unimaginable. What that might
unimaginable. And I haven't thought of it that way. Mm-hmm. I appreciate the voids that they left, for lack of a better term. You can YouTube just about everything, and so it's interesting just comparing it 10, 20, 30, 40, now 50 years later to how things are getting done and how people are communicating. And I do long for some of that. I do long for the straight talk and the compassion that was trying to be lifted back then, and so, yeah, those are sad.
What family traditions did you have that you like to share from growing up?
One of the big ones that I always remember was getting together for Christmas at my grandmother's house. This was my father's mother. My father was the second oldest of 6 children, and then there were 23 grandchildren, and we all went to Grandma's house. And every year, Grandma would, or one of my aunts would walk out with a big laundry, one of the wicker laundry baskets, and that had everybody's present in it. We all got presents.
We weren't like ever hardly at our grandparents' house because we didn't live close. But boy, I remember homemade ice cream when we did go back there. We even had it for breakfast one time.
I kind of remember the old station wagons sitting in the back, no seat belts, and we just go on a lot of road trips because we moved a lot with being in the military. And I always remember my dad and I would be the only ones awake. Everybody else is sleeping. Dad and I are just enjoying, seeing the country.
My dad being in the Air Force, we were never near family. Our aunts and uncles and our cousins were back in the Midwest, and we lived a lot on the East Coast. And I remember, when we were in the States, it'd be an annual road trip, and it'd be like Chevy Chase's vacation. and I remember one in '69, and we had just come back from Germany. We're stationed in eastern Long Island, and we went up through upstate New York to Cooperstown and Niagara Falls, and we went as far west as my aunt and uncles in Green River, Wyoming. And I remember that because that's the day that we were sitting in the living room and we watched the guy land on the moon and take the first step on the moon.
How did your faith help you growing up as a baby boomer, and what does it mean to you today?
For me, I don't remember a time when the church was not a part of my life. My mother and father met at the church they still attend today. And there was never a question on Sunday where you were. Never. I still to this day feel guilty if I am not, for some reason, can't go to church on Sunday because that's just the way it was.
So when I was a kid, I do remember every night I was taught that you say your prayers before you go to bed. Mm-hmm. And it was, Dear Father in heaven, look down from above, bless Mother and Father and all those I love, especially Steve, Tim, and Mark. You do it enough and it becomes almost hardwiring.
Yes.
I'm a real student of the Bible, and I still struggle because when you start looking at that sort of stuff, sometimes you start questioning the validity and on down the line. So I struggle with that a lot. I don't know if I'm right or wrong, or the authors of the books I'm reading are right or wrong, but it does keep me focused on two particular aspects as far as I'm concerned. That's God, but more importantly, Jesus of Nazareth.
The nice thing about attending here at Ascension is that I do get asked. I have, 7-year-olds ask you about your faith, and teenagers, and I'm a hodgepodge. My dad was Baptist, my mother is Episcopalian, my wife is Lutheran. I fall in the middle somewhere.
You're a product of what Keith Hedstrom.
Be careful.
Yeah.
You're getting ready to say I'm a product.
Well, you're part of this hodgepodge.
Absolutely.
Of beliefs that we have at
Absolutely.
Ascension. He described it one time as taking a shotgun and shooting the wall, and every one of those pellets are every one person.
Absolutely.
And we all come from these all different kinds of faiths and stuff and beliefs and everything.
Fast forward to a few years ago when I got sick.
Oh.
And I was very sick. And I went to a really dark place. And that I didn't believe that a person of faith for their entire life, for my entire being, that I could go to that place that was dark and fearful and not knowing how to hang on to faith anymore. Oddly enough, one of the most helpful things was repeating, Dear Father in heaven, look down from above, bless Nathan and Jason and all those I love.
My faith, and I struggle with it more than daily, and I struggle with being a good person more than daily, but my faith wants me to remember that this community is actually very, very small, and that we're all in it together, and that hopefully And I think times right now are forcing us to look this way. I think that there's some things that are bigger than all of us going on that hopefully is forcing people to ask questions, to look at one another, to try to stand one another, and you know, because that's the only way we're going to keep going.
My baby loves the hanky-panky. My baby.
The one big faith memory that I have is that, and unfortunately it affects me 50 years later. I was the tail end of the donkey in our Christmas pageant when I was
Oh, I
growing
thought
up.
you were talking about your personality.
No, and we had a pastor here, and I'm not gonna mention Daniel's name. And he said, "So you were the ass of the ass." And I'm sorry, honey, I did say that. She told me not to. My wife told me not to say that. But that's the great thing about going here. That's the thing. My pastor said that to me. Yeah. You know, my pastor said that to me, and he understands that. You know what? Okay, yeah, that's hilarious. Let's break this down.
Got decaf this morning. That's the problem. I come here I tried getting some regular stuff, and there's like 2 drips. I'm like, no, I gotta get decaf.
Need the real stuff.
Yeah.